Alright, we know all y'all not making it to the end, but the question is, which one goes? Thank you to our final patrons, Strawbones, Red4765, Midnight Gemlord, and Sean. Now, we're having this breakdown / discussion on which of the 4 Knights of the Apocalypse is going to perish. Please do remember to leave your own thoughts on who's going to perish in the comment section down below. Leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, hit that little notification bell so you miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do have a Patreon down below. You can support for as low as $1 month. You like exclusive videos, early content, and more. You also now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Now, let's hop into the discussion. What's up, guys? Uncle Pencil here, and here we are to talk about the 4 Knights of the Apocalypse, who are destined for some dark fates. But the real question is, who's gonna go? Like, permanently go. Like, notably, Escanor is not alive. And I suppose maybe he could come back in some sort of chaos resurrection sense, but notably, despite Seven Deadly Sins being a series that consistently gets critiqued about not keeping any of its characters, you know, like the dead, it actually starts like capping a couple characters at the end. Like, legitimately, some major characters, some minor characters, and then one of our titular characters. Escanor is the biggest one. He ends up going out in a glorious blaze of fire right at the end of Seven Deadly Sins. Right when you least expect it, too. He doesn't even get to be in the final fight of the titular series. Nah, he gets the second to last fight against the fake final boss, for the real final boss to be taken care of by the remaining 6 sins. Then you obviously have Chandler and Cusack, who kind of get absolutely annihilated by themselves, really. Like, they leaped at Mael, big mistake, and then they leaped at the Demon King. In Cusack's case, another big mistake. Bada bing, bada boom, they both ended up gone. Then, of course, you have Zaratros, who ended up getting packed twice, live on air. He got gone. Fraudrin got packed. Derriere got packed. Monspeet got packed. Esterosa got packed indirectly. Like, a lot of people do actually get packed in Seven Deadly Sins. I know Seven Deadly Sins definitely has some major dumb I don't like this revivals. Like, don't get me wrong, Henriksen coming back by drinking demon blood, not my thing. Dreyfus being alive, I think it works because I like Fraudrin, but hey, Fraudrin got packed if you didn't like that. So, like, Seven Deadly Sins is not afraid to pack characters of all variety. It doesn't matter if you're major, doesn't matter if you're minor, doesn't matter if you're somewhere in between, you can get packed. And thusly, keeping up with this whole pack rolling scenario, if you will, I do think one of the 4 Knights is not going to make it to the final chapter of our series. But the question is, realistically, which one? And who would it be, and why? And obviously, we have some major exceptions. And by major, I think there are 2 people who are kind of locked off from the anti-life equation skill tree, if you will. And that number 1, obviously, is going to have to be Percy. 1, we've literally seen him die already, like, on screen. Hypothetically, twice. Who knows? Like, if you consider his chapter 1 a GG, which I don't think it is. I think he heals up just fine. But we literally saw him get packed and get rezzed within, like, a 2-chapter span. Obviously, he's not gonna go anywhere. Like, that's like, I don't know what comparison to make, but that's like assuming Midoriya and My Hero Academia is gonna permanently go somewhere. Or, like, I can't even say JJK, because like, Itadori dies in like the first 5 episodes. But even still, like, a regular shonen series offing their main character permanently is just like unheard of. And I'm not saying, I forget, does Seven Deadly Sins count as a shonen? I'm not sure. But still, Seven Deadly Sins is not the kind of narrative that will put its main character in a pack permanently. Like, both of our main characters, realistically, all 3 of them. If you want to say Elizabeth and Meliodas are the 2 main characters of Seven Deadly Sins, both got put in numerous packs and just kept coming back to life. Like, legitimately, Elizabeth has over 100 packs and Meliodas has at least 3. So, obviously, there's some packing going on with main characters, but it never lasts, it never sticks, and I highly doubt that's going to change with Percy. He is literally our main character. I don't see Nakaba going that dark. I think he's definitely going to be on the more mental darkness with Percy rather than physical darkness. I don't ever see our little shining blue boy, or green boy, I suppose, or yellow. What is his magic color? But regardless, our little shiny life boy, our hope boy, I don't think he's going to go, because that means hope goes, and I don't think hope is ever going to leave the narrative. I think that's going to be the lasting thing that's going to save us all. Hope will bring us to the promised land. And bada bing, bada boom, Percy will never go because of that. I also don't think it just makes sense. Like, realistically, not even just like on a meta level, we're not going to end the main character's life before the end of the series, or even at the end of the series. I highly doubt we're going to have like a epilogue or time skip where we have Percy on his deathbed while Lancelot, who hasn't aged a day, and Tristan, who hasn't aged more than a few days, standing over him being like, darn, bruh, it was fun. And Percy's like, it was fun. And I don't even think we're going to get that. I think it's going to be like, they're just going to live happily ever after and run off into the sunset. Or at least Percy is. However, let's move on to our next living candidate, who I think is pretty safe, if only for the fact that I don't see Nakaba. I don't see Nakaba doing it twice. But then again, see, this is the thing. This next pick is much more like 50-50-ish. Like, I could see Nakaba being cruel and doing it just like this. But at the same time, I could also see him specifically not wanting to repeat himself. And if you didn't get it yet, it's Gawain. I think Gawain is safe. Mainly because we already packed up a Sunshine user. Like, we did that. We did that right at the end of last series. I don't think we're going to do that again. Would it make sense? 100%. Here's the thing. The reason I'm so conflicted on Gawain being going or not going is because the setup is right there. The setup is, ironically enough, in the previous series. It's established, or at least it's hinted at. I think it's being hinted at that Gawain has some sort of limiter on her sunshine magic in order to make it so that she doesn't burn throughout her lifespan, just like Escanor did. And thusly, it's entirely reasonable that in the big final battle with Arthur, or whatever real final antagonist we're going to have, she's going to remove the limiter, get access to her full magic powers, enter the one ultimate, and use the powers of Merlin and Escanor combined to do insane damage and go out crazy and do all that good stuff. And then they're going to defeat that fake final bad guy, and then the three knights are going to face off against the real final bad guy in the end, as Gawain wishes them good luck or whatever, after she's had an amazing character arc, amazing character journey, and she stops sniffing people's hair. Maybe that's it. That's the thing I can see, but I don't know. I feel like in my heart of hearts, Nakaba just wouldn't repeat himself. Because no matter how many extra bells and whistles you put on it, it would just be a Sunshine user burning out their life force using Sunshine again. And I just don't think that's viable. Like, or at least I wouldn't write it that way. Like, Nakaba is a man who catches me lacking all the time. Like, the 7 deadly cases are a thing, and then he made them the 8 deadly cases, only to break my ankles again and realize and show me that Arthur is actually not the ultimate villain, he's just a real one. And with that being the case, it's entirely possible that he just repeats himself. I'm not saying it couldn't work. Once again, Nakaba can write some good characters, and I wouldn't be shocked if he made Gawain a great character only to bang and then put her off screen permanently. But I don't see Nakaba doing it. Kind of like how he's very specifically avoiding making like a demon, goddess, hybrid, or any sort of character the true MC. Like, obviously we have Percy as the true MC, just like we're making it so that instead of Bond being relatively weak throughout the early narrative, he's having Bond's blood and the Fairy Clan appear very strong early on in the narrative. Just as he's making humanity one of the most undervalued aspects of the series, a new main focal point of the series, with our entire main cast essentially being somewhat human, entirely human. They're all humans. Like, there's literally not a single pure blood other race or even mixed blood other race in our cast yet. I think Nakaba's very much subverting 7 deadly sins in terms of pretty much all of its writing conventions. Even the pacing of the original 7 deadly sins narrative versus the pacing of the 4 Knights narrative, the first soon to be 100 chapters deep, 100% different. I may make a whole video talking about that once we finally hit 100 chapters on 4 Knights, and I'll do a comparison like side to side, chapter to chapter, pace to pace. But Nakaba is doing something very, very different with 4 Knights overall. I think even if you like aren't like deeply looking into 4 Knights or trying to deeply look into it, because I'm not saying I'm a deep looker. Like, I can barely read. I can barely speak English. I can't look that deep. But still, even with that being the case, I think it's entirely reasonable for Nakaba to want to subvert his own expectations. Like, yeah, the setup is right there. It's literally a walk down the crime alley that easy of a setup and execution and payoff. And hey, just in the same way that Escanor's death made me sad, I bet Gawain's death would make me sad too. But still, I feel like it's too obvious. It's too red herring. It's now, ironically enough, we have a setup like that within 4 Knights itself. The fake Merlin. I thought she was just standing there cooking the entire time. She wasn't even standing there. So Nakaba is very much able to throw in massive, glaring, flopping about due to lack of oxygen, due to them not being in the water, red herrings, and then completely yanking the rug out from under us. Heck, look at Esterosa in the original series too. I really think that Gawain is going to make it, which is ironic because I'm saying that the two, well, I'm still not entirely sure what Percy is. Don't get me wrong. I don't have 100% certainty of what he is. But assumedly, if Percy is pure human and Gawain is mostly pure human outside the external magics, then it's interesting that our two hypothetically shortest lived characters would actually make it to the end, at least in my mind. Once again, could I be entirely wrong and Gawain is literally just a lamb to the slaughter? Yeah, I can entirely see that. And it's not like, once again, it's not like it would be a bad plot point. Sure, you could definitely see Seven Deadly Sin fans saying it's a rehash. I would even say it's a rehash. But once again, Nakaba's writing Four Knights as if you didn't even read Seven Deadly Sins. You don't need it. It's just a nice supplemental material that gives you extra context for certain things. But right now, like look at all of Chapter 92, you get pretty much nothing that relates to the original Seven Deadly Sins outside of the kids of the previous characters and references to the previous characters. So obviously, Nakaba could do it all over again, but I just don't think he will. He definitely seems to be on a big like legitimately avoiding everything and anything when it comes to directly repeating himself in terms of Four Knights compared to Seven Deadly Sins. Which leads us on to our next pick. I think in reality Tristan's kind of safe, only because I can't imagine the backlash. Like hypothetically, there's already a whole bunch of people that don't even want to read Four Knights because Tristan isn't the main character. They wanted to see the continuation of Meliodas and Elizabeth, not some random Camelot kid, and thusly I don't see Nakaba really packing up Tristan. Like I just don't see it. It's like weirdly out of my dome in terms of him putting Tristan in the finest of packs. Though, ironically enough, at the same time, he would be one of the best packs to roll up, too. Like, legitimately, the children, or no, not the children, the child of our two previous main characters, our undying, immortal previous main characters, getting packed up permanently, it would kind of hit. It would kind of like signify the real passing of the torch to humanity properly. Because yeah, Tristan's human, but we know he's a demon goddess hybrid. We call him a Nephilim for a reason. What is a Nephilim? Demon goddess hybrid. It's not any like fancy. Well, it's ironically enough, I believe if you look up Nephilim, it's just like impure human or whatever, like some sort of mix between unholy things. But even with that being the case, I think it would really work if Tristan were to go. Like, I'm almost like teetering. I almost want it. And to be fair, I like Tristan, especially a lot more with this new demon side of him. I want to see him develop. I want to see him grow. I want to see him become 10 times the character he is. But at the same time, I think once he does all that, once he grows into this perfect, amazing, wonderful, lovable character that everyone loves and cares for, that really even surpasses Meliodas and Elizabeth in terms of likability, development, storytelling, battles, all that, abilities, everything that we could ever dream of, imagine him getting packed. And it could be for like really good reasons too, because once again, I made a whole video talking about how he could literally be the next Chaos, and that could be in more ways than one. Like he could literally sacrifice himself to like seal Chaos away with him in an eternal battle and have Chaos never intervene or invade the world ever again. And Tristan doesn't technically really die, but none of his friends or family ever see him again because he's in a constant battle in his prime state against an immortal being like Chaos. It could be cool. I don't know. I think it'd be neat. Like, legitimately, I could see Tristan sort of having a really, really, really dark ending. And at the same time, if you don't want it to be something like that, you could literally just have him, like, in a real final battle. Like, straight up, him and Arthur with the rest of the Four Knights going at it, supporting him. Because Tristan realistically should be the strongest at his full potential. Don't get me wrong. Like, I get Percy as the main character. I get Lance as him. I get Gawain has the hacks. But still, Tristan should be the strongest, so I can see him literally like taking a final blow for his homies, for his friends, for his nakama, and then bada bing, bada boom, he ends up perishing. Very similar to how Escanor did in the original, except it would probably be like a genuine final blow and not him like just standing there and dying. I think that would be pretty cool. It would send out Tristan and sort of the entire demon goddess lineage in a really cool way, sacrificing themselves for humanity and the people that they love and care for. I think it'd be neat. It'd be similar to Escanor, but it'd be different enough to where it's literally just not an Escanor. I don't want to call Gawain an Escanor clone. The two are very fundamentally different characters, and I'm definitely going to talk about them in their own like Escanor versus Gawain video after we get a few more chapters of Gawain. But still, even with that being the case, Sunshine user, don't let them both go away at the same time. And I think realistically, it would just be really, really cool to see Tristan go out in like a gigantic twilight blaze of glory. Like, hypothetically, if we were just gonna go like traditional cool man end of the line move. And assumedly, I don't think the Knights are going to succeed in their path of taking down Arthur or whatever final big bad while they're still young. I do think we're probably going to get to like at least their early to mid 20s when they're going to do that. If you don't want like a 25-year-old Tristan going out like a chump, you probably would want him doing some like massive dark light explosion to entirely annihilate everything around him to save his friends, and then they walk in and find him like, I don't know, do a full like final explosion Vegeta thing where they find him turned to stone and like mirrors the original portrayal of him where he's like holding his blade and it's like stoned and he's entirely stoned, and bada bing bada boom, he saved them all in death and stuff like that. I think that could be really, really cool. I think it'd be really, really neat. I could definitely see him going just because like Nakaba's definitely like, I wouldn't say he's railing against the Demon and Goddess clan, but once again, in the similar vein that he's kind of going against a lot of his storytelling, character writing, all those conventions with Four Knights in comparison to Seven Deadly Sins, I could definitely see him going against the convention that the Demon and Goddess get to live in the end while the human dies, and have the Demon Goddess hybrid go in the end while the two humans, the closest things to pure humans, end up living. At least that's what I think. I think that's the most reasonable next step for him. Or not next step, that's like implying he's gonna die in chapter 93, but still, it's the most reasonable way to like give Tristan an honorable go out while also simultaneously keeping up with the themes of like the goddesses and demons giving themselves up for humanity. I think that'd be really, really neat. But still, the one who I think is going to go the most, and I know his fans, myself included, are not happy with me, or not going to be happy with me. And trust me, I had a long, hard look in the mirror this morning as I thought about this. Yeah, I think Lance is the most likely to go. And here's why. Here's the thing. You gotta hear me out on this. What was his pop's name? The Undead. The Undying. Bon the Immortal. Wouldn't it be ironic if his son, the Mortal Man, the mightiest, the man who carried the entire back half of this series, or maybe not back half, I don't think we're anywhere near halfway through Four Knights. We haven't hit 100 chapters yet, and I highly doubt the coveted sequel series that Nakaba has is going to end before, or maybe even in the same league that the prequel series is going to end. So imagine how it would be if the child of the Immortals and the child of the Resurrected in Elaine perished. And notably, I'm not exactly sure how you would write his going out. Like, I don't necessarily see any thematic connection between the fairy/human hybrid and Arthur and Chaos. Like, I don't, maybe, like, I could kind of see it, actually, now that I think about it, because the most undervalued direct child of Chaos, like, out of the three deities that were born, the one you hear the least about, the one that gets abused the most, well, to be fair, it's the only one that's still alive, but still, the one that got bullied and beat down the most, and never really gets talked about, wasn't even seemingly involved in the sealing of Chaos. I just like the headcanon that they were, because, you know, Chaos was sealed away in a moss shell, and obviously the two other deities can create nature and stuff like that, but I think it'd be cool if the fairy tree helped. It's the fairy tree, the great fairy tree. If the most undervalued child of Chaos, the one that we hear the least about, the one that Chaos seemed to care about the least too, is given precedent as one of its representatives, one of its indirect kings, if you will, because obviously the fairy tree did not birth Lance, it was Lance's mama that birthed Lance. I could definitely see it being tragic and beautiful that he's the one to take down Chaos. He's the one that, in the end, saving Jericho, saving Guinevere, saving his friends that he's grown to love and care for over the long journey that he had with them, he ends up doing it, and like in kind of an underdog kind of fashion. Sure, Lance is quite literally the opposite of the underdog. I've made multiple discussions talking about nerfing him, removing him from the narrative, doing stuff like that because he's snapping it over his knee with such literal ease that it actually hurts my knees and I feel them snapping. Still, wouldn't it be amazing, or maybe not amazing, once again, I know the Lance fans are screaming at me and are trying to figure out some way to make sure that this doesn't happen and I don't speak it into existence, but wouldn't it be something else if Lancelot, after being top dog, after being this de facto leader, after putting himself on the front lines again and again and again to protect those he loves and cares for, he doesn't get rewarded with a happy ending, he doesn't get to live out the rest of his days with his friends or anything like that, but in one last big leader move, one last big final sacrifice, he goes out protecting those he loves and cares for. I think it would work. I think it'd be cool. It would definitely make your boy cry. Like, hypothetically, Lance could slice, or no, Lance could slice Nagaba. Nagaba could slice Lance in half tomorrow and, like, have Hugo Strange just be a crazy next level threat. But in reality, I would still feel bad because I really, really like Lance. But imagine Lance after who knows how many more years of character development, and we finally get him up out of here. I think it would be crazy. I think it'd be beautiful. Even people who don't like Lance, which is pretty much no one. Like, I don't know. I have, out of all the characters, I've seen critiques for Gawain, I've seen critiques for Tristan, I've seen critiques for even Percy, but I've yet to see, like, a solid person who sits down and says, I do not like Lancelot of Four Knights of the Apocalypse. Of course, there are going to be like 50 of y'all in the comment section being like, well, in actuality, I don't like Lancelot. And I respect your opinion. I completely understand that. I also think he provides some narrative and or character flaws that could be addressed later on in the future. I can definitely understand any critiques that you have of them right now. He still is Timothy Herner personified. You could call him Hunkin, if you will. And with that being the case, it would be very interesting to see him Hunkin end up sacrificing himself in order to save him friends. And I think that'd be really, really neat. And also, it would kind of just fit because it's the character you least expect. Like, of course you would expect the currently weakest of the Four Knights to go. Of course you would expect the demon goddess hybrid filling the role of, like, the martyr for the demons and goddesses in this new humanity-centric world to go. Of course you would expect the reincarnation of Sunshine, a power that does not last with humanity and is not from humanity, to take out the human that's wielding it. Of course you would expect all that. But would you expect the powerhouse, the guy who's been mobbing in the cut since the very beginning, the guy who's been backpacking the series essentially on a power-wise front and even just a straight-up guidance front, changing the morals and perspectives of the character? Heck, for all intents and purposes, for the first, like, 50 chapters, Lancelot was the mentor character, and arguably he still is right now. He, despite being 16, the same age as everybody else, he's the one who's been leading, he's the one who's been guiding, he's the person you don't really expect to go, because obviously he's too strong to go, he's too cool to go, he's too saucy to go, he'll sell too many toys to go. Or, toys? Is that really a thing? Like, I always think of, like, Saturday morning cartoons. I know, like, they were run-off toys. Ben 10 comes to mind mainly, but still, even that, like, Lance, especially once he debuts in the anime, is gonna be a moneymaker. There's no doubt in my mind that he's gonna make fat stacks. So obviously you wouldn't think Nakaba would want to put him in a pack. Of all the characters, why would you want to put him in a pack? Timothy Herner? Why? Because it's the least expected. I don't, realistically, despite how much it was being, like, red flagged and greenlit before the chapter he died in, I didn't think Escanor was gonna go. I was very much in the, oh yeah, this is Seven Deadly Sins, no one really goes. Like, that was my mentality, despite up until that point, a lot of bodies had hit the floor, as I said at the beginning of the video. But still, I thought, you're not gonna, like, slaughter one of the titular main characters, especially a character as cool as Escanor. Escanor's amazing. Escanor is so popular. I've seen content creators of all varieties and backgrounds who may have not read not more than 2 chapters or watched 1 episode of Seven Deadly Sins reference Escanor. Some people name themselves after Escanor. Like, the thing is, the man was so popular and so powerful and so cool and so amazing that you never expected him to go. And then he did. And it hurt. It hurt a lot. It caught you off guard. It stabbed you in the back. Like, legitimately. I don't know how y'all feel about Escanor's death. I'll make a whole video to see if I can get a consensus on that and see what the general idea is and feeling is behind that. But at least to me, it hit. It hit a lot. Like, darn, like, it still makes me sad to think about it if I think about it for too long and too hard. That's how good it was. It was very well foreshadowed. The red flags are everywhere. He was essentially, he had the death flag over his head pretty much ever since he coughed blood the first time. So obviously, it was destined to happen, but still, I wasn't expecting it. And that's the same thing I feel like is going to work with Lancelot. I think because it's so unexpected, because he's the son of these resurrected and undying people, because he's so cool, because he seems to be a fan favorite, because he's so powerful, because he fits every single opposite criteria to someone who would end up going by the end of the narrative, I think that's the exact reason why he would go. He's filled a mentor role. He is extremely powerful. It would fit within the whole underdog nature of his entire species, both humanity and fairies, at the exact same time. He has the raw power to do it. If arguably not right now, soon enough, it could be just a really, really good send-off for a character that does so much for the narrative and did so well. Yeah, it would be dark. Oh, indubitably. Absolutely. I don't think Lancelot would go like a chump. I also don't think he would get the Escanor treatment where he gets to stand and say goodbye. I think he's the war. He's the guy who would go down fighting in the final bout, in this final clash, in order to end the war, take down the big threat, take down the final foe, and really prove himself as the Knight of War. As you're always going to have characters who need to represent certain things, and I think Lancelot represents the end of war very, very well. It's something that he should be very capable of, and I think be very, very neat. So overall, to recap, I think Percy's least likely. MC has built-in revival powers, has already been packed on screen. Highly doubt he's going to end up going. Gawain, also another character who could go. I can entirely see the logic behind it and the reasoning behind it, but I just don't see Nakaba repeating himself. I don't think it'll go over all too well. I think he doesn't want to do that. I think he's going to stick her around, keep her around. Tristan, another one who I think is very possible with going. I could see it being very, very cool when he goes out too, but at the same time, I still think Lancelot is the number one guy who's not going to be, alive by the end of all things, because I think it would be way, way too cool and way, way too perfect for us to not have our golden fairy boy strike back against the heavens, strike back against the deities of the world, and one final bout to end up sacrificing his life for everyone he knows and cares for and loves. I think it'd be neat. I think it'd be great. I would love it. I would have tears everywhere, pain and agony in my heart as I screamed, "Why, Nakaba, why?" Even though you can obviously tell I want it right here, right now. I think it'd be neat. I think it'd be cool. However, that's my list. That's my ideas. That's my philosophy. But tell me what you guys want. Tell me what you guys would want to see, who you want to go, if you want any of them to go at all. If you don't want any of them to go, let me know why down below. However, thank you so much for watching. Remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And make sure the little notification will miss out on any videos that come with the channel. Also, we do have a Patreon down below. You can support for as low as $1 month. Exclusive videos, early content, and more. You also now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Now, thank you guys so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is That Guy with the Pencil, writing off.